Hey there. Okay, I want to talk about soulmates again. I've actually talked about this a lot, and I'm going to continue to talk about it because it actually comes up a lot in conversations. And I just think that I just think that people are maybe confused, or I just think that sometimes people they just don't know. Like, they just don't know. So I'm just gonna read what Google says, okay? And then I'm gonna give you more of my thoughts, okay? A soulmate is often perceived as a person with whom one feels a deep, natural affinity, characterized by a unique and profound connection based on mutual understanding, acceptance, potentially transcending romantic love. Here's a more detailed look at the concept of a soulmate. Okay? Deep connection. Soulmates are believed to share a profound and inexplicable bond going beyond the surface level compatibility. Okay? Let's talk about that. There are some people that you meet, and again, I talk about this all the time. This could be friendship and or even lovers, and you just can't explain why you feel so strongly about that person. It's like something kind of happens, maybe even instantaneously, or kind of like right away. Like, you just kind of there's something there. You can't explain it because there's not a lot of time, or there's not a lot of activity based time or interaction to be able to explain why you're feeling this connection. Okay? So, yeah, it's kind of like that, right? So there'll be a soul bond or a soulmate, right? And it can even go, let's just say maybe you are in a romantic relationship and with a soulmate, right? And it talks about how it can go beyond the romantic, transcending romantic love. So, for example, let me use my parents. My mother, for sure, my mom and dad definitely were soulmates, and they definitely said that. But when my dad, when his sickness, he had kidney disease, when it took over him and their relationship was very put to the test romantically, because of the sickness was very hard on both of them for a lot of reasons, right? Their bond kept the two of them together, right? And the bond that they felt was something that could not really necessarily be explained, because they weren't necessarily feeling romantically bonded, but they were absolutely feeling bonded on a soul level, where it's like that person's comfort affects your comfort. If that person is in pain, you feel like you're in pain and you're agitated. It's like their soul interacts with your soul. And sometimes you don't even have to be in the same room or in the same building or anything, right? So that is how you kind of know when you are dealing with a soulmate. And when two soulmates, especially romantically speaking, are no longer together, or no longer interacting, for whatever reason, it can feel like your soul is being tormented. It can literally feel like your soul is being tormented, like you are constantly in thought or deep thought as to if that person is okay, or if there's, anything going on, or that person is hurt, or, it could be different things, whatever. But you'll hear people say, like, my soul is tormented. Like, you could think of like Romeo and Juliet, you know, and how they loved each other so deeply, but that they couldn't be together, and how his soul was tormented at the thought of not being able to be with her, right? And you've heard people say that. Okay. Now I want to give you a personal example of that right there. Okay. And a lot of this is therapy for me. I don't say therapy, but this is actually good. A lot of this is good. I like to get this out because I want my boys to know these things, right? To know these experiences. I have talked about a lot of them, but I'm sure that my boys are, you know, I think there comes a time in your life where you're not, you know, like you don't want to hear about your parents until you get older, and then you're like, oh, you want to hear about everything, right? So I like to talk about these things so that I get it out there, right? Okay, so when my late husband passed away, that morning, we had a lot to do to get done. I had a list of things that I wanted to get done that day, like whatever, of errands that I wanted to run, right? And I had wrote it out, put it on the table. And he usually took the kids to school, and then he would go to the gym, you know, but because that was usually the routine. But because that particular morning we had a lot that we needed to get done, and I wanted to get done before the kids came back from school, right? I had told him, I said to him, you know what, go to the gym now. I'll take the kids to school because I want you to hurry up and get your 45 minutes or whatever in and done or whatever, so that I'll take the kids to school, so when you come home, I'll be ready to go, whatever, and we can head out to go do our errands, right? And he was, you know, in his 30s, and he had a massive left chamber heart attack while in the gym. And in fact, according to the guy at the gym, he didn't even start his workout. He actually had his heart attack as soon as he got there. He went down. Now, I took the kids to school that morning, which was not right around the corner, was not that far. And I took them to school, and I took them into the bus route, or, you know, the drop off, the route, you know, like where you drive in, right? And I dropped them off. And as I was in that parent pickup area and I was driving through, by the time I got to the end, the kids had came out, and by the time I got to the end, to where I should be like exiting, to go exit out the school, I had such a strong sense of disorientation that came over my soul. Okay? It was almost dizzy, but I wasn't dizzy. It was like a strong feeling of disconnection that I couldn't explain. I didn't know what was happening. In fact, I was so disoriented that I remember putting my foot on the brake and not exiting the school parking lot and stuff. Like I didn't exit. I stopped right where I was at, because I couldn't. It was like, where am I going? What am I doing? Where am I supposed to be? It was like that was happening, and I was like, and I remember it was so strong, and I remember saying, whoa. And I remember feeling this like in here. I said, whoa. And I prayed to God at the moment. I said, God, I don't know what's happening right now. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what I'm feeling. I don't know what's happening. And it was like I almost could not recognize even where I was. And I don't do drugs, you guys. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. But it was so strong that I put the car in park. I stopped right there. I parked right there at the school. And I just prayed to God, and I just said, I am not leaving. I am not leaving here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not driving until you tell me it's okay. And I didn't know why I was even saying that, or why I was even, you know, it was very strange. And I remember moving kind of in slow motion. And I am famous for putting my makeup on in the car anyway. And so I felt so strange. But I remember Tom Joyner was on the radio in the morning show, and it was on in the background, and I heard Tom Joyner, and I remember kind of like snapping out a little bit, and was like, I know him, you know. And in very slow motion, I remember picking up my eyeliner, and I remember saying, this goes on my eye. And it was like that. It was, I guess it could be compared to being drunk or high or something. I don't know, but it was like that, but not. Because I wasn't high or drunk or anything, right? but it was a strong sense of disorientation. And I remember it emanating from here. Like I remember from here emulating this disorientation, disconnection type of feeling. Like disconnected from the world, or like just disconnected in general, kind of dizzy, kind of weird. It was a very weird experience. Finally, at some point, I heard God say, okay, you need to go home now. You need to go home. And it was like, oh, okay. So I'm not sure exactly how much time went by, but I believe it might have been about 30 or 40 minutes, to be honest with you, because, you know, you drop the kids off around 8:30, and I remember sending him to the gym. And according to the guy at the gym, he didn't even start his workout. He actually went down before even picking up the first machine or whatever. He was a power lifter. He did powerlifting. Okay. And apparently it happened it was right away. And then they rushed him to the hospital, which was actually right across the street from the gym. And in any case, by the time I drove home and I walked into the house, the phone was ringing. And I picked up the phone, and the phone person was the guy at the gym, and he said, are you Travis Jones, wife? You need to go see him. He's at the hospital. And I was like, what? And he said, yes, you need to go see him right away. And I was like, okay, is he okay? And he wouldn't answer. He didn't answer. He said, well, I don't know. You have to go to the hospital. I don't know. And I said, what do you mean you don't know? I said, what happened? I said, is he breathing? Is he breathing? And he couldn't answer me. And I knew the minute that he could not answer me that my husband was breathing. I knew that he was gone. I definitely knew it. I didn't give into that feeling, but I remember saying, I hung up the phone. I just hung up the phone. I just remember thinking like, okay, you don't have to, I got to get there right away. And I barely got to the front door, and I turned right around outside of the door. I literally went right back out, back to the car, and I started praying. I was immediately praying for my husband, praying for his, his health, and that he would be okay, and, watch over him, protect him, cover him, all these things, right? I was definitely praying. And by the time I got to the car and put the key in the ignition, I had such an empty feeling that came. It was like an empty feeling that I said to myself, this is an empty prayer. This is an empty prayer. This is an empty prayer. This prayer is not going anywhere. And I know that sounds crazy, right? It sounds crazy, but I could feel it. I could sense it. And I knew from the few minutes earlier, I was like, it's too late. He's gone. I knew he was gone. I knew he was gone. And I knew instantly that's what I was feeling that few minutes earlier was the separation of two souls. It was that cord, that string breaking, completely disconnecting. Now, I want you to compare what I just described to you, whether you have experienced that or not, to, let's say, you finding out or hearing about a relative or a friend or someone you know or someone you used to go to school with or somebody else passing away or dying or whatnot, okay? And while it may be shocking, or it may kind of stop you in your tracks for a minute, or cause you to want to know what happened, or whatever, that feeling that emulated from in here is likely not happening. And it likely you didn't feel that when the person actually did pass. Like, you might just be finding out a week later or whatever, right? So there is a difference when somebody that you just know, or you an acquaintance with, or a family member passes, that you are not a soulmate with, that you don't have any real connection to, okay? Versus when you do have a strong connection with somebody. There is a feeling inside that accompanies that connection with that person. Also, with that person, it's like that person that you are a soulmate with has power, right, over you, meaning that person has the ability to cause you extreme grief or extreme happiness, right? Whether they know that or not, or whether they want to or not, it's just like, how do I explain it? Let's say you see that same soulmate, let's say in a relationship, and you see them deciding to be with somebody else. Okay? And you feel it right here. You feel it in your gut. You feel it, right? So I'm saying that to say, there are times, let's say you're married, and sometimes we're married to somebody who, let's just get real, maybe you don't want to be married to them, right? Or maybe you're not in love with them, or whatever, right? And you hear some women, especially older women, who are like, honey, you can have him every day and twice on Sunday. Go ahead. Whatever you can do with him, right? They kind of get that, like, it's not a soulmate. They might be married to that person, or they might even whatever, but they're like, it don't bother them at all to see you, or to see them with somebody else, right? Because it's kind of like that cord is not there. That is not like, it could, they may consider them friends, or very close friends or something like that, but that person almost doesn't really affect them on a soul level, on a soul level. And when you are dealing with a soulmate, again, certain things will bother you, about, like, if they're hurt, sincerely hurt, it's not that you just sympathize with them, but it's almost like you feel their pain. You can't help but feel their pain. It's like you just do. You if they're hurting, you're hurting. And it's like your soul is not at ease and cannot rest until you make sure they're okay, or you are back in connection with that person, checking on them, looking at them, whatever, right? And you have heard, you probably have heard of stories of people who, like, I've seen this online plenty of times, of people that were like, sorry about that. So like when you have read those stories or seen those stories online of two people who, especially, I know I've read stories like this, especially interracial couples, especially, and it's like they met somebody, that they fell in love with, the two of them fell in love, and for whatever reason, like, especially back in the day, like, I don't say olden times, but I guess it wasn't too long ago, but 50s, 60s, or something, like 40s or whatever, when it wasn't like, it was like not acceptable for interracial couples or whatever. And I've read these type of stories where it's like the two people, they knew they were soulmates, they fell in love deeply, and they never forgot about each other, right? Their life might have gone on, they might have had to move on with their life and had separate lives, but at some point they rejoined each other back, and the relationship picked right back up. I remember reading that about a couple. They were older and they were interracial, and she broke up with him, I think, because of her family not accepting him, a black man, and it hurt her and it pained her deeply. I think they were even together like 7 years or something. Anyway, she became a nurse and whatnot, and for her, I guess after her person that she actually married passed away or something like that, she kept having that feeling inside of her that she wanted to reach out and find her first love, which was this black man. And when she did finally find him, he was in a rehabilitation nursing home center or something, and I guess basically kind of alone, in that, not having a lot of care around him or his family or whatever, a wife or anything. And she decided to be a nurse, and she went on to fly out to his state or whatever and get him out of the nursing home or the rehabilitation center, and brought him back and brought him so much life and love. And and the two of them are like, they got married. It was like a beautiful story. If I could find it, I'll try to tag it into this, put it in here. It was beautiful. Actually, it made me cry. Like, it made me cry. It was so beautiful. A lot of people, it was very touching. It was a very touching story. And I know to her, she was probably thinking, to her, it was like, to her, she wasn't doing that to have some sort of touching story or anything. She was just responding to what her soul was telling her to do. Her soul was telling her that she would not rest until she reconnected with her real soulmate, or her first soulmate, or her first love, you know, and her soulmate. She could not rest. And she said not one day went by that she didn't think about him. Not one day, even though she moved on with her life, and even though she remarried or she married and had kids or something, not one day went by without her thinking of him. That is torturous to your soul, okay? And I mean, it's not like torturous like you're in living hell or anything like that. It's like, it's just that your mind never breaks from the connection with that person, right? And it's because you two are soulmates, right? And what I experienced when my late husband passed, as he actually went down and had his heart attack and he went down to the ground, it was obviously during that time, and it was obviously when he first got to the gym and I was dropping the kids off. It happened, obviously that's when my soul became in torment. In other words, I was feeling tumultuous, and I couldn't explain it because it wasn't physical. Like, I wasn't over here hurting physically. My head wasn't hurting, or my, whatever. I didn't have a physical pain, and I couldn't describe it to anybody if I had to at the time, right? I just know what was actually happening, especially as I looked back and realized that my soul was disconnecting from his, and I was feeling tormented. I was feeling a form of torture from that, okay? And in any case, that doesn't happen when somebody in your family passes that you're not as close to, or just when you hear of other people's passing, right? That doesn't happen because there wasn't a real strong soul bond there to break, okay? So things like that are hard to explain or kind of unexplainable will happen when you are in fact dealing with somebody who is a soulmate or in your soul family, okay? Now, I'm going to finish reading some of these things on the list. It says, a mutual understanding. A key characteristic of a soulmate relationship is a deep understanding and acceptance of each other, allowing for vulnerability and authenticity. Unconditional love. Soulmates are often seen as offering unconditional love and support, creating a sense of safety and belonging. That is very true. That is very, very, very true. Because when you're dealing with a true soulmate and someone who calms your soul down, someone who brings you peace, someone who is your peace and someone who brings you peace, or them just being around brings you peace, you feel at peace when they are near, right? That creates a sense of safety and belonging. A lot of times you can actually tell that, at least I've been able to tell that in a hug. At least for me, I can usually tell in a hug. If there is a feeling of home, if there is a feeling of safety, of belonging, it's like a puzzle. It's like a puzzle, a puzzle piece that you fit perfect. Like it just fits like a puzzle piece. Like that. And it kind of feels like that in a hug. Doesn't necessarily have to be romantic either. It could just, like I said, you're just somebody part of your soul family. It just kind of feels like that. Okay, it says some shared values and beliefs. Soulmates may share similar values and beliefs, life goals, fostering a sense of alignment and purpose. Personal growth. Soulmate connections can act as a catalyst for personal growth and transformation, challenging individuals to evolve and become the best versions of themselves. Absolutely, I feel Like, I feel that way very strongly. And one of the key markers of a really good relationship, especially a soulmate bond, is the two of you will be able to grow together. I definitely remember I could definitely grow with my late husband. Like, we met as teenagers, and my whole adult life, you know, up until that point was with him, but we had grown through our challenges, okay? And we grew together, okay? Different interpretation. It says the concept of a soulmate can vary depending on cultural and personal beliefs, with some viewing it as a predetermined connection and others as a result of shared experiences and compatibility. No guarantee. It says, while the idea of a soulmate is romantic and appealing, it is important to remember that relationships require effort, communication, and understanding from both. You absolutely can have a soulmate who is, let's say, toxic. And you know, and when I say that, I mean, like, you might wonder, like, a person is toxic to you, and they might push all your buttons, they aggravate you to no end, they bother your soul, right? And it's almost like you might keep trying over and over and over again to try to figure out to make this work because your soul kind of wants it to. But if they're a toxic version, or either one of the two are coming up toxic, that person is forcing you to change and grow, meaning in ways that are like learning how to let go, right? And that person, if they showed up in a healthy way, could be a strong, healthier soul bond. But when that person shows up in a very toxic way, then it's like how do I say, you still need some basic foundations of effort, communication, understanding from both to grow that soul bond, right? Okay, so that's basically what that's talking about. Now it says anything else? Let me see if there's anything else in here. Okay, it says types of soulmates. 10 types of soulmates and their purposes in your life. Soul partners. Soul partners are not limited to romantic connections. Then there's romantic soulmates. Oh, Lord. Twin flames. I don't want to talk about that one. Soul families and soul tribe. Those are people that you know, naturally just kind of get along with. Companion soulmates. Kindred soulmates. Definitely kindred spirits, you know. I have a lot of friends that like that. I know who they are. They know who I am. They deal with my craziness. And I deal with them, whatever. It brings up karmic soulmates. Karmic soulmates would be people who bring karma to your life. Negative karma. Soul teachers. Okay, so there's people that are there to guide you. So basically, I'm just kind of reading. I'm just reading from the list. Okay, so let's see. Let's see what how the dictionary defines a soulmate. Is a person a person ideally suited to another as a close friend or romantic partner. So yeah, ideally suited, meaning, you know, we all have those suits that are just too big or too small, and we're busting through them, and then you find that suit that fits you just perfect, right? And that's a soulmate. I would definitely say, like, a soulmate is definitely someone who you can definitely feel comfortable with. You can feel comfortable with them in any setting. And as far as lovers go, the comfort and the love comes from just being with them. Just from seeing them happy, and just from being with them, you will feel a sense of comfort and a sense of belonging. Okay? And by not being with them, you will feel a sense of discomfort. You'll feel the opposite. You will feel a sense of discomfort. Maybe a tortured soul, or your soul may be in torture. Or, you know, something like that. Like that woman. I'm going to try to find that story. And at some point I'll link that in, because it was a beautiful story. Anyway, I hit 30 minutes for sure. So, yo, I always forget to ask this, but definitely, you know, hit like for me, because, you know, I would appreciate it. Getting some likes, okay? And I enjoy. Thank you for listening to my stories and all of my rambling. Bye.